Most people cannot sit in silence for 10 minutes without reaching for their phone. Not because they are weak, not because they are distracted, because their brain will not let them. The discomfort is not random. It is biological, and understanding why your brain fears silence and what happens in the brains of the people who do not is one of the most useful things you can learn about how human minds actually work. Blaise Pascal wrote in the 17th century that all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. He was not being poetic. He was being precise. And 300 years later, neuroscience confirmed it. Let us start with what the brain does when external input stops. Your brain did not evolve in quiet. It evolved in a world where sound carried information, the crack of a branch, the call of a predator, the approach of another group. Attention to noise was survival. The brain's threat detection system is wired, at the deepest level, to treat silence as data and sounds as signals worth processing. In the modern environment, that wiring runs all day against a backdrop of constant input. Notifications, background music, other people's conversations, the ambient hum of cities. The brain is processing continuously, and processing continuously means it never fully stops. When external input finally stops, the brain does not relax into peace. It switches modes. The network that activates in the absence of external tasks is called the default mode network. Researchers once assumed it was the brain at rest. They were wrong. The default mode network is extraordinarily active, metabolically expensive, highly organized, and running what neuroscientists now understand to be some of the most important processing the brain does: self-reflection, perspective taking, thinking about the future, connecting disparate ideas, making meaning. The default mode network is where your brain integrates experiences, constructs narrative, generates creative insight, and processes the emotional residue of your days. When researchers scan the brains of people who have just had a breakthrough idea, a sudden connection between two things they had been thinking about separately, the default mode network is often what just fired. It is not idle. It is doing work that focused, task-oriented thinking cannot do, because focused thinking is too narrow, too directed. The default mode network ranges freely, and ranging freely is where synthesis happens. But here is the problem. For most people, the default mode network in unstructured silence does not run smoothly. It runs toward rumination, toward anxiety, toward replaying conversations that went wrong, anticipating outcomes that have not happened, cycling through worries that have no immediate solution. This is why silence feels threatening. Not because nothing is happening, because everything is happening, and most of it is uncomfortable. In 2014, psychologist Timothy Wilson and colleagues at the University of Virginia ran a study that captured this precisely. They asked participants to sit alone in a room with their thoughts for 15 minutes. No phone, no book, no external input. Participants rated the experience as deeply unpleasant, and when given the option to administer mild electric shocks to themselves rather than continue sitting in silence, a significant portion chose the shocks. They preferred physical pain to sitting alone with their own minds. That is not a curiosity. That is a measurement of how uncomfortable the unmanaged default mode network is for most people. Now here is what noise costs you that you are not accounting for. The World Health Organization has classified noise pollution as the second largest environmental health risk in the developed world after air quality. Chronic exposure to ambient noise, traffic, open offices, urban sound environments, raises cortisol levels, elevates blood pressure, and keeps the stress response chronically activated at a low level that never quite resolves. More importantly, for how you think, noise fragments attention. Cognitive load research consistently shows that background noise, even noise that does not seem disruptive, consumes working memory resources that would otherwise be available for complex thinking. The mind under noise is shallower. It makes faster, less considered decisions. It misses connections it would otherwise make. It processes at the surface because the deeper layers are occupied with filtering input that never stops arriving. You are doing your thinking in a noisier environment than any human generation before you, and you are probably not accounting for what that costs. Now here is what silence does to the brains of the people who can tolerate it. In 2013, researcher Kirste at Duke University was studying the effect of various auditory stimuli on the brains of mice. As a control condition, she exposed one group to 2 hours of silence per day. She expected nothing from the silence group, What she found changed the direction of the study. The mice exposed to silence showed significantly increased neurogenesis, the growth of new neurons in the hippocampus, the brain region central to learning, memory, and emotional regulation. The silence was not neutral. It was actively productive at the cellular level. Sara Lazar at Harvard has spent years studying what sustained quiet practice, specifically meditation, which is structured engagement with silence, does to the human brain. Her research found that people who maintain regular meditation practice show measurable increases in cortical thickness in the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for attention, decision-making, and emotional regulation, and measurable decreases in amygdala reactivity. The brain's threat detection center becomes less reactive. The brain's executive center becomes more developed. The people who regularly engage with silence are building a different brain than the people who avoid it. But there is a dimension to this that goes beyond neuroscience alone. Silence is a social signal, and most people do not understand how powerfully it broadcasts. In conversation, the ability to tolerate silence, to pause without immediately filling space, to hear something without reflexively responding, is one of the most consistent markers of confidence that the human social brain reads. The person who speaks without pause, who fills every silence with more words, who becomes visibly uncomfortable when conversation stops, that person is broadcasting something, not intelligence, not competence, anxiety about how they are being received. The person who can sit in a pause, who lets silence work, who responds only when they have actually processed what was said, that person broadcasts something entirely different. Groundedness, deliberateness, the sense that they are not dependent on external validation to regulate their internal state. Research on negotiation confirms this. Studies on persuasion and influence consistently show that strategic silence, pausing after making a statement, allowing silence to exist after an offer rather than immediately qualifying it, creates psychological pressure that words do not. The person comfortable with silence holds more power in the exchange, because they are not working against the discomfort the other person feels. This is not manipulation. It is presence. Genuine presence, in a world that is allergic to it, is rare and powerful. There is something else that silence does in social contexts that is harder to quantify but impossible to miss once you see it. The person who is always speaking, always filling the space, always adding, they become predictable. The mind of the person listening adjusts to them. It learns to filter, to half listen while waiting for its own turn. But the person who speaks rarely, and only when they have something worth saying, that person gets heard differently. The same words carry more weight. The same opinion lands differently, not because the content changed, because the ratio changed. Scarcity creates attention. Silence is a form of scarcity. The people who have developed a tolerance for silence, who have learned to stay in it rather than flee from it, gain access to something most people have surrendered without knowing it: the ability to hear themselves, the capacity to think without interruption, the groundedness that comes from not needing constant input to feel okay. They also change how other people experience them. Calm is contagious. The person who is not adding to the noise becomes a kind of anchor in environments saturated with it. Others slow down around them. Conversations that happen in their presence go deeper. Decisions made with them involved tend to be more considered. The world is getting louder every year. More notifications, more content, more ambient input competing for the same finite attention. The people who learn to be genuinely quiet in that environment, not distracted, not numbed, but deliberately still, are developing a capacity that is simultaneously ancient and increasingly rare. It begins with tolerating 10 minutes, not meditating, not performing silence, just stopping, putting down the phone, letting the discomfort arrive and not immediately solving it, letting the default mode network run until it moves past the rumination into the clearer, quieter space that exists on the other side of it. The brain does not get comfortable with silence immediately. It takes practice. The first few minutes are often the worst: the agitation, the pull toward input, the sense that you are wasting time when you could be doing something. That pull is the brain's noise habit asserting itself. It is not information. It is withdrawal. Stay in it. Because on the other side of the discomfort is a kind of thinking most people never access. The connection your brain makes when it has space to make it. The clarity that only arrives when the noise stops. The version of yourself that exists underneath the constant stimulation, quieter, steadier, and far more capable than the version that runs on noise. Silence does not empty you. It shows you what is actually there.